So this is our continuing lecture series on unsound chess. And one of the things that is true about chess is that it's a timed game. And the fact that it is a timed game means that computers are always going to have an advantage. You can set a computer, let's say Fred's, to play quickly. And by the end of the game, he's used literally no time. He's used like 10, 20 seconds of his entire allotted time control, even though it's the same as yours, which could be a long time. The problem with that is that it's a tremendous advantage for the other side because you don't get to think while he's thinking about making a move. It's real simple. You're just thinking on your time, basically. So if you want to play a really fast game and lose, make him play fast because he's going to play literally the same strength as if he played slow, only he's not going to use any time. So I hear a lot of whining, and I even hear this from grandmasters I hang around, where the grandmaster is making some excuse why he lost in this speed tournament to another grandmaster or somebody lesser. And he'll say, he flagged me twice or something, because he played the same person twice, and both times he lost on time to the person. He could be a queen and two rooks up, but he lost on time. So the point is that a point is a point. It's still a point. Time is part of the game. So whining about time really doesn't get anywhere. The fact is that he was ahead on time for a reason. Maybe if you had used a lot less time too, Mr. Weiner, you wouldn't have had that queen up at the end of the game and say, well, you only won on time. There is no only one on time. It's you lost. That's the rules of the game. So flagging is kind of a term that says, well, the person just tried to run me out of time. Well, that could even be true in an even game. And, the fact is that, we'll get to that, but sometimes time is our only advantage. Sometimes we're rated 500 points higher than somebody in a tournament, and we're playing them in a really long game, and it's just one of those openings where it's very even, where the incremental advantage is so small it's ridiculous. It's almost like an ending, and all the pieces and pawns are basically, you might have a small advantage in like pawn structure or something, but it's looking very drawish, and you're going to lose a lot of rating points unless you can figure out a way to push it and win. And in those particular situations, time is your only advantage. And sometimes that person has very little time and you have a whole lot of time. The other weird thing about time is that it's not just different for computers, it's different culturally. There are cultures who just arrive late to meetings. I've been, involved with people, of European descent of various types. And it's culturally correct, for instance, for, Lufthansa to leave, a few minutes early, and somebody gets to the gate and says, wait a minute, I'm on time for my flight. They say, well, you don't understand our time. Our time is to leave early. Or somebody from Alitalia, who it's like perfectly common for them to leave late, and they don't even show up to meetings on time. So, but that's culturally accepted. And there are cultures and actually races of people who can hardly be taught to even tell time with a clock. So I have no idea how they play chess. But I will tell you one thing. Space and time have a way of merging in chess. And so sometimes you get entirely lost in a position and you're studying it and analyzing it, and you wake up and 20 minutes has gone off the clock. It's as if you went into a state of suspended animation. Those are the things that we want to be very careful of, because those things will kill you in blitz chess and speed chess. And even in long chess, you can get into terrible time trouble unless you keep one eye on the clock, or 1/10 of one eye on a clock. Sometimes you're so involved with people, like you don't even notice that they haven't punched their clock. They made the move and forgot to move their clock. Then you make a move and you go to punch your clock, and it's already punched. So what advantage is there of that if you can't analyze that? That person might have sat there and never noticed and run out of time. You would have gotten a point, and you could be in a losing position. And I've seen people do this, and I've done it. And so you have to be very careful of doing that. I have never lost a tournament game on time, so I must say that it's very important It's a integral part of the game that needs to be watched. You need to have something in the back of your mind, at least a small sense of urgency about time. And it isn't really important that you win on time. You can say, well, I was way ahead on time. That means nothing. What matters is position. What matters is that you're able to make all your moves and have a comfortable amount of time left to make all remaining moves that you need to make, especially if it's a sudden death type game like a game 70 or a game 60. You need to leave yourself plenty of time and understand how capable you are of playing quickly. And the reason that that's true is that as time ticks down, so does your rating. In a sudden death type game, a person who's rated 2200 all of a sudden gets rated 2000, then 1800, then 1500 as the seconds roll down. If in a sudden death game they have 20 seconds, 15 seconds, 10 seconds, depending on how fast their mind works, those people get massive decreases in rating. Sometimes they make hideous blunders. Sometimes you see super GMs blowing their queens because they just don't have the time to look at everything. It has a panicky effect on you when you realize that you're going to lose on time. It's like seeing the last seconds of your life tick away and you're thinking, what can I do to save this? So the fact is that as time ticks down, you become much weaker automatically. There's nothing you can do much about it. You could be the greatest speed player in the world and have all the abilities, but the fact is that it's going to get you in the end, like it gets all of us. The death and taxes thing. Another interesting thing is that the World Chess Organization, believes that increment is okay, but for some reason, other federations, and I'm not going to name names, they don't really embrace that as a Fisher time, where you, for every move, you pick up a second or 2 or 5 seconds or whatever it is, the increment that gets added. Increment actually makes a mockery of time controls. The fact is that you can have like a 5-minute game, and if it's 5+1 or 5+2, that game could last like a really long time because you have a lot of moves that could be made, and you could just add it up. If it's a 2-second increment, and you run up 90 games, that's another 180 seconds per person. So it's no longer a 5-minute game. However, if it's a delay, you have a D5 in a game or something like that. That means your clock's not going to move for the first 5 seconds of that next move. Then your clock starts moving. So understanding the difference is really important. So there is a virtue in being able to think within a delay period. In other words, if you can absolutely make a good move within 5 seconds and you're playing in a delayed tournament, and even if it's an ending and you're not going to blunder, then you're left with very, very little time left. A D5 can help you, because if you're capable of making a move within 5 seconds or 10 or whatever it is and making a good move, then practicing speed chess is of decent value if you play that kind of chess in tournaments. So the way to run a person out of time, when you talk about it, he flagged me, he was just trying to run me out of time, he flagged me, is actually to be ahead of them on time. By the end of the game, if you have the additional time left, sure, he gets to think on your time, and that's very important. But usually that person is in a state of mental panic, where he's prioritizing and saying, well, okay, like if he moves here, I'm going to move here. He has 3 moves that he thinks you might make, and he's automatically going to make that response because he's thinking on your time while that's going on at the end of the game. And if you are ahead of time significantly, it is worth it to analyze something and make absolutely the strongest move every time, because they can prioritize while you're thinking, number one. And number two, occasionally, if you find a really good move that isn't considered as part of like the 3 best moves they could be thinking of, that is going to throw them into shock, and you're going to win on time. So the way to actually run somebody out of time is not to run them out of time, not to attempt to just make a B move and run them out of time and hope that they don't see something. It's to come up with really the very strongest move, and some, especially if it's a surprising move. So those are my advices on what to do with time. Find the best move. It's not that different from playing regular chess. Thank you, and good night.